Another guy that made a big move last offseason to the SEC and made a bunch of waves because he beat Alabama last year, Diego Pavia, kind of did a little bit of a tell-all, and he let it all hang out. We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Diego Pavia, he said so many things when he was on Bussin' with the Boys on, I guess, the episode released on Tuesday, but it made waves. He had Tennessee in his sights. He had the Big 10 in his sights. He had Michigan in his sights. He had something for everybody out there. Like, he was spitting fire. One thing that was really interesting is somebody offered him $4.5 million to leave Vandy to go to another SEC school. I'd be curious, like, what the discussion was, and we could maybe play the who was trying to get Diego Pavia away from Vanderbilt game maybe sometime. But yeah, so many things. But the thing that we're going to talk about first here is what he had to say about the Big 10. You know, he said, why would you want to go play in the Big 10? You want to play with the best, and the best is in the SEC. The exact quote is this. You got to think about this too. The SEC is like nothing else. The Big 10, you have Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, Penn State. The SEC, you have all dogs. You only have like 4 games a year in the Big 10. The SEC, it's like week after week, you're going to get beat on. You want to play with the best. You don't want to play with the Big 10. You ignore those calls when discussing if Big 10 teams were trying to reach out to him to get him to leave Vanderbilt.
So John, as I think about this, I'm be honest, I really want to know which team offered that kind of money. You think it was Duke?
Kentucky.
No, it feels like it was out of the SEC.
He said an SEC team was trying to get him to come out to leave Vanderbilt for $4.5 million.
It's got to be Georgia then.
Maybe Georgia?
It's got to be Georgia. They're the one that's probably needing a quarterback the most. I mean, Oklahoma has their quarterback. Texas has their quarterback. Tennessee had their quarterback at the time. LSU has their quarterback. I don't know if Mississippi State has the money, but they could have been potential.
Maybe it was Tennessee. Maybe Tennessee came calling because they lost their quarterback. And
after like, Nico?
What? Maybe we could pull Diego over.
So is that why he's throwing shade at Tennessee?
Because he did say that in the years to come, Vanderbilt's going to be running things and going to take steps ahead of Tennessee.
I mean, I love the confidence. I think it's hilarious.
It's a little much, but I love it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Like, I like Clark Lee or whatever. He ain't even James Franklin right now. And that's the one thing I get at James Franklin is he was able to find a way to at least go bowling on a regular basis at Vanderbilt, which is probably one of the more impressive coaching jobs in college football. Mm-hmm. It's not that easy. I mean, it's up there with Matt Rule and Baylor dang near playing for a national championship and getting a Heisman Trophy winner. Mm-hmm. Certain jobs are just hard. They come out the gate hard. They're a challenge, and it's pretty impressive to see when you can do it.
Yep.
With that being said, John, Diego was wilding. Like, I love that he called out the Big 10 like he did, while at the same time I'm asking the question of why? Like, why are you throwing shade at them? Like, what is your angle? There's got to be a reason why you're doing this. And I'm thinking through this. I'm like, I don't see, is he trying to manipulate the playoffs? Is he trying to help with pushing the Big 10 to follow suit with the SEC and say, oh yeah, let's go 5-11. We'll gladly take most of the spots. What is the play here, John? And that's the thing I'm trying to figure out with Diego Pavia.
Yeah, I have no idea. This is like one of those wrestlers that is kind of young and up and coming, and he's just throwing shade at everybody just to get some clout. But it's Diego Pavia, and
he's already got clout.
Already has enough, right? Like, you'd think that after beating Alabama last year and leading Vanderbilt to a bowl game that he's like, I've spoken with my play on the field, but no, dude's like, let me just target everybody. I'm surprised he didn't call out the Pac-12. I mean, he was throwing shade everywhere, or the Big 12 or the ACC, but no, he had Big 10 squarely in his sights. And I think some of it is warranted, because you go look at a school like Penn State's schedule and they're playing nobody in non-conference.
They really aren't.
Do they have some tough conference games? Absolutely. But give me a conference that doesn't have tough conference games. Shoot, I think the Big 12 has good conference games on their schedule. Do they have the brands that the Big 10 has? No. But you could go look at the Big 12 schedule and find a schedule just as difficult maybe as Penn State's, because of what they're not playing in non-conference. But
it's true.
I mean, you look at the SEC schedules, and yes, there might be some like Texas that have easier slates, but for the most part, it's a grind. And we've talked about Oklahoma's schedule a lot. It's a grind. And Vanderbilt has one of those tough schedules as well. Mississippi State has one of those tough schedules as well. It's hard to get up out of the basement of the SEC, not like in Indiana. Indiana was able to go from basically out of nowhere to the playoff in 1 year. That's not happening in the SEC. You're not going to go from a bottom tier, middle tier team into the playoff one season. That's just not going to happen. You're going to have to grind and build to be able to do that.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to bring in a whole bunch of transfers and then be like, oh, we're here. That is just not how any of that works at all. It requires a lot more preparation to get to that point. You got to have a foundation set in some capacity. I mean, LSU gave you some of that with their quarterback, bringing in Jaden Daniels, winning a Heisman and doing that deal. Pavia coming into Vanderbilt and really changing the program around. But you're not just going to walk in and go 11-1. Like the Big 10 gives you that opportunity because they have so many teams at the bottom that makes it easier to do that. The SEC doesn't have that. Like, they don't have the pleasure of, as bad as Arkansas can be and Vanderbilt in years past, they look a lot better over the last couple of years. Like, they have moments where they're upsetting teams that you're like, oh, okay, maybe you can be competitive. Mississippi State will probably be back next season. They'll look a lot better. Well, they don't have a quarterback yet, but you get what I'm saying. It's not going to be as bad as it was before. So I get where Diego's going, but man, be careful, dog. You're just opening up to where everybody's going to be gunning for you this season.
I mean, you go look at the ESPN Football Power Index, which we're going to look at on tomorrow's show, and 13 SEC teams are in the top 25. Yep. There are 10 inside the top 17. And from the Big 10, you have 4 in the top 17 and just 5 in the top 20. Only 3 in the top 15. So it's just not the same. Let's look top heavy. Vanderbilt's schedule. I mean, he doesn't play a Big 10 team this year, so he doesn't have to face that fire. Maybe in the bowl game if Vanderbilt's able to get back there. But they got Charleston Southern, and then a really nice week 2 matchup with Virginia Tech in non-conference. But then they got South Carolina this year. They get Alabama, LSU, Mizzou, Texas,
get Oklahoma.
Auburn.
He gets lucky.
Yeah, Tennessee.
He avoids Oklahoma.
Gets to avoid Oklahoma. But no, man, I think he's right. The Big 10, they got a lot of teams in the playoff last year. The SEC got left out a little bit because they beat up on each other. But I think this year things kind of flip a little bit. Although it's looking like it's going to stay at 12 teams, maybe even for the foreseeable future. We'll see as the leaders meet apparently in Western North Carolina to further discuss future playoff formats. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfirst Spirits Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. You can follow me at John9Williams. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. Talk to you then, Boomer Sooner.
Diego's funny, but we'll see what it looks like come to season time.
Who's next to speak with their chest? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's true.